You know, that's interesting because it's if your phone's not ringing, no one's hitting you on a DM asking for your music. It's
right.
to think that I am a raindrop in the Pacific Ocean. Nobody
Right.
listens to my music. Are you saying that there are, you know, just because your phone's not ringing, you can't assume that people are not coming across your beats?
Yeah, there's people, I tell producers all the time, like, okay, let's talk about a beat battle or a music showcase and music conference. No, I don't want to go to that. I never win. I think it's rigged. I'm not going to meet anybody there. And I'm like, no, like we have A&Rs, you know this, Chris, like A&Rs that go to these events. They might not tell you that they work at Rock Nation or wherever, but they're there looking for artists and producers. They're there just kind of checking out the scene. They're not going to let you know that they're checking you out. But that's why you always have to be prepared. You know, you always have to have flash drives with you with your beats loaded up on them. Like you never know who you're going to meet. You just don't know. And if you go with that mindset of, oh, I'm never gonna, and I'm never this, and I'm never gonna meet, and I'm never gonna win. It's not always about winning the beat battle or the showcase that you go to. It's about who's gonna be there. You might bump into somebody's assistant or somebody's engineer or DJ or somebody that sees you and wants to mess with your music and develop that relationship. So it does make sense.
Okay, you mentioned A&R. In today's marketplace, what is the best way for me to shop beats? Or is there no best ways? It's just anything and everything? Because back in the days, the only way to really get a beat placed was to get it to an A&R. Is it necessary to go that direction now? Or is it just the wild, wild west out here? Get your beats exposed as best as humanly possible.
Right, right. You know, I always tell producers there's no one way into this business. So I would hit from all angles. And that's what I do. And that's what I've been doing over the years. I send stuff to the engineer. I send stuff to the DJ attached to the artist. I send stuff to the A&R. I send stuff to the road manager because these are people that are all going to be in the room when they're recording vocals and things like that. And if you're just trying to shop to one person, it's going to be like you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And over the years, just knowing different people and their camps and how they work, if I know in my mind, maybe I say, oh, Ross is whatever, engineer, maybe, okay, maybe he doesn't listen to beats. When I find that out, when I know from building a relationship that, okay, he's not really a beat dude, I'll go to somebody else in the camp that I know is actually running through beats. And that's what you kind of have to do is figure out who's the person that's really listening to these beats, who you think can place these records, and kind of get to that person so you don't have to do so much middleman stuff.
Got you.
You know?
It seems like there's a common theme amongst everything that you're saying, all the great advice that you're giving. Does it still just come down to networking, doing whatever you can to get yourself in front of the right people? Would you say that networking still today in today's market, because everybody is sitting behind their computer, they just think I can throw something up on social and
right.
You know, my life's gonna change. What's the importance to you as a person who does this for a living and has been extremely successful at it? I know you started your career out networking, but in today's market, how important is that?
Very important. I mean, if you're doing the same thing that every other producer is doing out here, spamming links, and hey, Wale, did you listen to my beat? And hey, Meek, did you check out my BeatStars page? You're wasting your time. Nobody looks at links. Nobody clicks on those. They think it's a virus. We all think it's viruses. So we're not going to click on random links. The best thing that I feel like you can do, and what I tell producers all the time, is to start booking major studio sessions at these studios in LA, New York, Miami, and Atlanta. And this is where you're going to bump into people. You can't wait outside with your CD. That's old school. You know what I mean? We used to wait outside, Def Jam with your CD and shit. But book your own session so you have control of your own room so that nobody's kicking you out and it's your session. And maybe you want to have a listening session. You invite some artists through, some A&Rs through, some other writers. But then you control your own, you know, session because you paid for the time. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Got you. What's the best way to protect yourself you know, when you're a no-name producer, anybody could take your beat and just recreate it. Or let's just say an established artist, like you said earlier in the conversation, jumps on your beat. They don't contact you. You can call up and say, hey, look, that was my beat. Like, what is the best way for an upstart to protect themselves?
I would definitely copyright my beats through copyright.gov. That's copyrite.gov. And you used to mail in like a CD of beats of like 18 to 20 beats, and I think it used to be $30. Now you can do everything online. So if you copyright your beats, you know, everything that you're sending out, you know, for professional placements or whatever, it really makes sense, because then your music sits in a vault. And if anybody, you know, claims that, hey, I made that beat, you actually have evidence and proof that you copyright your beats. If you don't have that, it's going to be kind of hard. I mean, sometimes you can show your masters or whatever. You can do that sometimes, but I think it just makes sense to copyright a big batch of beats that you feel like are, you know, the ones that are going to get major placements, so that they're copywritten.
What's the cost of copyrighting the beat?
Well, it used to be $30 for like 18 to 20. I have to go and look what it currently is. It's probably a little bit more now. It might be like 30 or 40 bucks, but everything's online. You don't have to mail in CDs anymore. So if you just go to copyright.gov, you can check it out and you can start, you know, today copyrighting your beat.
Got you. Let's say I create an incredible beat. Some artist wants to pick it up, but it contains a sample. Who's responsible for clearing that sample?
The label. A lot of producers think that they have to clear the sample, and you don't. I work a lot with clearing samples. A lot of the samples that we have to clear from records happen to be like a random singer from SoundCloud that we have to contact. And they're usually pretty cool about stuff. But I always tell producers, like, you don't want to sample Sade or Michael Jackson or the OJs, you know, things, you know, the OGs of the game. It's going to be really hard. You know, people like Luke and older vets, they're waiting for producers to use their music so that they can get a piece of your pub or whatever, which is cool, but they're going to take a big percentage off of the sample. And that's why you have companies like Splice, where you can get royalty-free samples. A lot of producers mess with that website. And there's just a lot of producers smartening up about what samples they're using, because they don't want to pay that big fee. It can take, like I said, a big percentage of the record, and then your whole placement is going to be, you know, less on the money side, the percentages, because of that big sample clearance.
Got you. You know, once upon a time, producers could only eat selling their beats to artists. Now, everybody is into film. There's a whole television market. People are making documentaries. What is the process of submitting your beats to film companies? And is it the same rate? Am I still looking, you know, if somebody has a documentary and they found my beat online and they want, am I selling it for the same $50 to $100 as I would to an artist, or can I charge more?
Yeah, there's more money in the licensing game. It's just a very tedious game. Is a lot of in-house, like, let's say LA producers that they grab music from. This is where you're really going to have to develop your relationships and know a lot of music supervisors. And I always encourage producers that whenever there's an ASCAP or BMI Expo, that you go to those. A lot of them are hosted in LA, Nashville, and New York. And this is where you're going to bump into all the publishers and the music supervisors. And it's really important to try to get to know them if you're trying to get your beats, you know, for sync licensing opportunities.
Okay, say I'm lucky enough to get my beat noticed and they want to license it. Do you have any idea of what my advance should look like, what I should be asking? You know, if a documentary wants to use my beat, or a television show wants to use my beat?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more higher, 8, 10, 12 grand range.
Oh, that's nice.
There's going to be more money up front for that. Yes.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it is.
You spoke about this earlier, but I didn't want to dive deep into it because we were focusing on the entry level or the mid-tier producers. But say myself, Sean Beats, Prez Beats, I'm starting to pop. You mentioned production deals. Explain as best you can, what is a production deal and when should somebody consider taking a production deal?
Okay. Production deals were really big back in the early 2000s. You know, they were called P&D deals for producers. But since the internet kicked in and it's an oversaturated market for producers, they do less of those. Now, guys that are offered production deals in this day and age would be more like the Mike Will, DJ Mustard, more household names, Metro Boomin, guys that have, you know, a lot of placements, that have huge discography, singles on the radio, some of them turned into DJs. And those are the guys that are getting production deals. They might even have like their company underneath an Interscope umbrella or, you know, something like that. Like their company is able to get like a nice deal because they have so many proven, you know, hits on the radio that they're going to get that kind of deal. But the average producer, you're not going to get a production deal right off the bat, no.
So when we see these producers going online screaming about, I wish I never got into this production deal, more times than not, can we assume that they're more established producers?
Yeah.
That they're just not offered anymore?
Yeah.
Got you. You spoke about Mike Will, DJ Mustard, and some of the others, Metro Boomin. These guys are household names. What recommendation would you give to producers to brand themselves?
Branding comes from constantly seeing, you know, visuals, seeing you out there. So branding can come from you're showing up to all the events, all the showcases, all the conferences, all the South by Southwest, A3C Festival, just really making a name for yourself. Also utilizing the platforms like we spoke about, you know, BeatStars, YouTube, SoundCloud, big platforms where you can be, you know, putting your logo on there. I always tell producers to get fresh photo shoots and things like that so that you can constantly, you know, be reinventing yourself. But it's going to come down to really your networking and appearing at all these events and showcases and things like that. So people are constantly bumping into you and know you in person. You know, we talked about everybody sitting at home in front of their laptops and throwing out their latest single on their Instagram and things like that. But people have to know you in person. Like the way you break bread with people and build relationships is also to see them in person. And I know a lot of producers say, oh, I work a 9 to 5, or it's hard for me to travel, or how do I even get to the point where I would meet an A&R for a meeting and things like that. And I get that question a lot, but it's just going to be from networking, you know, setting up meetings, trying to get as close as possible to these people that have access to projects that they're working on and budgets to, you know, spend money on with you.
Okay, one of the things that I noticed that all of the super producers that we mentioned earlier have in common is they tag their music. You know, I can be listening to a record and at the intro, it's Mike Will made it. Or, you know, if it's Swiss Beats, I'll hear something like Showtime.
Right.
You immediately know it's their track. So
yeah.
In terms of branding, I know you went back to networking and getting yourself out there, but is it recommended that producers brand their track, or is this frowned upon, especially before you've really made a name for yourself?
No, I believe in having a distinct tag at the beginning of your track. I think that's very marketable, and I think it's a great thing to do. So yes, I would have a nice professional tag at the beginning of your track. A lot of times what I see producers do, and my other A&R colleagues, we laugh about it sometimes, is they'll put their tag running like every 4 bars, every 4 to 6 bars to the track. and it's a little bit too much. So then, like, let's say the artist wants to record to it at 3 a.m, he has their tag running all through it. So just put that one distinct tag, like you said, like Swiss does, and you should be good to go with just that one tag. Yeah, it's a great idea.
How important is social media these days for producers getting themselves out there?
Very important. Producers need to market themselves just like artists these days. You know, it's like out of sight, out of mind. You want to be everywhere in the forefront. You want to be on every platform. I was reading Gary Vee's book called Crushing It recently, and he was talking about how if you're missing one platform, you're missing a whole clientele. And I have producers that tell me that they're not on TikTok or Facebook or certain platforms. And I'm really surprised because a lot of these platforms are free. They're huge search engines, you know, for people to find you every day. And if you're not on these, it's like, I don't know how you expect a lot of people to find you, you know? So I would use all of them like we talked about, and just make sure that you're really active. You know, just because you have a Twitter account and you don't tweet, you need to start tweeting. Like, there's tons of people networking out. You just got to talk to people. You can't be afraid, you know, like you're sweating somebody. You just got to start talking to people and just networking.
Understood. It keeps going back to networking. You know, when I got in the music industry, it was drilled in our head. Relationships,
right.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Before we close out, is there a blueprint that any producer can follow to become successful? Or is it just a mix of all that you've spoken about throughout this interview?
I would say it's a mixture and combination of everything that we spoke about, you know, just having a really good work ethic, just being consistent, being patient, being realistic about like your goals, setting some goals, you know, just utilizing every single day to make sure that you're reaching out to multiple people, that you're being proactive about, you know, making beats, that you don't just make beats once a month, and, you know, that you take time to travel and set up sessions and go to events and talk to people and follow up, and don't be afraid, you know, to ask questions and to just mainly research everything there is about the production game, you know, publishing, points, splits.
Got you. I remember when I was coming up in the game, it wasn't unusual for super producers to make $50,000 a track, $100,000 a track. At one point, Pharrell, they were making $150,000, $200,000 a track. Are those days coming back, or are those days gone forever?
Those days are gone because of the internet.
Simple as that.
Yeah, the days are gone of paying producers big, huge upfront fees for tracks. I wish that producers would get at least, I wish a new producer would at least just get 15 grand a check. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm talking now I'm talking super producer. Say, you know, because I'm watching the industry change. We're seeing the artists, they're being signed, their deals are getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
It's common to have one record that's blowing up locally, and now A&Rs are signing you for 7-figure deals.
Yeah.
Has that not translated to the producer community? Because, you know, I can go back and we can even go outside of hip hop producers.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, or the Baby Producers, or the Teddy Rileys, or Dark Child. It wasn't uncommon to make 6 figures for a beat.
Oh, I know. I don't think that it has crossed over to the producer side yet. I think that maybe the rates will go up a little bit more as the years go on. But I feel like the money is more into the artist's career because they can get their money back with shows and things like that. So with the production side, I don't think you're going to see like, you know, $100,000 tracks anymore. But I do see more money coming back into the producer world, but not like we used to see it with those huge budgets. You remember those huge budgets.
Yes, I do. Very well. Before we close out, if a producer does go into an agreement with a manager
Uh-huh.
What is the standard percentage?
The standard percentage for the manager?
For the manager, yep.
Yes, 20%.
20%. So that's fair. So if a manager wants to take on a producer, producers should not be like, oh, you know, you're trying to rob me, asking for 20%.
No. And I see other managers to this day taking 30, 40 crazy prices. And this is why, as a producer, you need to know the standard rate is 20. Sometimes it's 15. Because so that you don't get taken advantage, because there are a lot of managers and people that will prey on people that don't know their business and take larger percentages.
Sarah, you have been more than gracious with providing information. I know that this interview is going to really help people and take a lot of the legwork out of it for them, because you've been so open with all of the information that you've accumulated over the years. So I thank you on behalf of my audience. Where can my audience find you?
Okay, great. First of all, Prez, thank you so much for reaching out to me to come interview me today. I really appreciate everything. I love helping out the producer community. You guys can find me on Instagram at SJ Manager. Also, you can find me on Twitter, SJ Manager. I just started an OnlyFans account, SJ Manager. It's all SJ Manager across the board. My email for beats always changes. So if you look in the bio of my Twitter and my IG, it's always there. Got you.
Again, thank you so much, Sarah. I would love to have you back in the future and just continue making power moves. You are a true power move maker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prez. I appreciate it. Take care. Peace.
Peace. What's up, guys? Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. Truly appreciate you. If you like anything you heard here today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you know anybody that can benefit from this message, feel free to share. Peace and love.